Welcome to Discover the Story with author Andrea Bashar. Andrea has penned over 40 novels and novellas, as well as a number of articles and devotionals. She is a co-founder of the American Christian Fiction Writers and has served on its advisory board for many years. She is also the president and CEO of Steeple View Publishing. And now, with today's story, here's your host, Andrea Bashar.
Well, hey everyone out there in podcast land. How you doing today? Hi, and I'm so glad you joined me today. We have a wonderful guest. Her name is Miralee Ferrell, and Miralee writes books with strong heroines, a spiritual message, life lessons, romance to warm the heart, and reliable family issues. And Miralee says that if you're in a place of adversity and in need of restoration or inner healing, she prays her books, her ministry will really affect you in a positive way. And so now I'd like you to welcome Miralee Ferrell. Well, hi, Miralee. Thank you so much for being here on Discover the Story today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
For our listeners, just in case they're not familiar with you or your work, you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I live in the Pacific Northwest. We're actually right in the middle of the Columbia River Gorge, so we're just literally in the middle of the Cascade Mountains, and we live out in the country, about 10 miles away from the river, and we have 10 acres out here, and I've got chickens, I've got dogs, I've got cats, and with this whole COVID thing that's going on right now, we're very blessed. My daughter and her husband live on they have 16 acres next door that adjoins ours, and so we're able to take walks, and we have a neighbor that has about 50 or 60 acres, and we all three have an agreement that we can walk or ride horses on each other's property, so we've got a large area to be able to ride and walk on and be able to get outside and not feel claustrophobic with, needing to stay home all the time. So I'm married, have 2 grown kids, 1 granddaughter, and just busy. I would have thought by this stage of my life I would have been slowing down, but I am crazy busy all the time. So I am a published author, award-winning best-selling author. I started out writing women's fiction with Kriegel and wrote 2 books in women's fiction, and then I got contracted with Summerside, and a lot of your listeners will probably remember the Love Finds You books. And I wrote 4 of the Love Finds You. Yes, same as you. You wrote some, and I wrote 4 of the Love Finds You.
I wrote one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was actually how my movie producer found me, was through the Love Finds You books. Okay. And I wrote historical fiction, westerns, pretty much, primarily for them, romances, and then ended up writing for David C. Cook, and also wrote historical romances, and then did middle grade fiction. So I've got 6 books with a 7th coming out soon that are kids' horse books,
and
adventure, mystery.
You write for, is it mid-grade or preteen or teenagers?
It's middle grade. It is middle grade. Age is about 8 through 12 or 13 is the age. Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to have another one I'm working on now, if I can ever find time to finish it, since I just finished the one for the new movie, From the Heart.
And we'll talk
a lot
about
of different
that
irons in the fire.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
And I'm also a publisher with Mountain Brook Inc. and a new subsidiary with them, Mountain Brook Fire. So keeping very, very, very busy. My husband says too busy.
Yes, you are. You sure are. And I am so proud of you. I remember I read your book, that one of your first ones that came out with Kriegel Publications.
Yes.
And I read one of them, and you were sweet enough to send me the copy. And then I think you and I were at a writers' conference, and we kind of talked about Love Finds You and kind of bounced ideas off of each other. It was great. And then we kind of didn't hear from each other for a while. I mean, you were obviously very busy. But tell us what, and I was going to tell my listeners too, one of my favorite stories that you've written to date is The Runaway Romance. I just love that story, and that became an Up TV original movie. Can you just tell our listeners a little bit how that all happened?
Yes, and I will interject here that I'm very, very tickled to hear that you loved that movie, simply because I love writing historical Western type romances. And so when I was asked to write one that was a full-length contemporary, I'd written 2 or 3 novellas that were contemporary romances, but not a full-length romance that was a contemporary. So when I ended up writing that one, I was very nervous about whether I'd done a good job, if it was going to, people would like it, because they were so used to my historicals. So it really blesses me to hear that you enjoyed that. I'm going to kind of start at a different place in this explanation about the movies, and just give you try to keep it a quick recap of how the Lord brought this about, because it's such a wonderful story, and it goes back to the Love Finds You books, which is what I had just mentioned a minute ago, that was what put me in touch with the producer. They had optioned and actually made 3 movies for Up TV of Love Finds You and there was Charm, there was Valentine, and I think it was Sugar Creek was the third one. And they optioned Sugar Creek. Yes, they optioned a large number of the books, and then their agreement with Summerside and with Guidepost, because it switched over, remember, from Summerside to Guidepost, and things just kind of fell apart, didn't work out for whatever reason, and so they ended up not doing anymore. But the producer, the producer and the associate producer. The associate producer is a woman, and she had read about 35 of the 50 Love Finds You books. And so she sent me an email, and I honestly thought it was a scam or a hoax when I got it. I almost deleted it. She sent me an email. She said, "I'm a producer," and I'm like, "Yeah, right." What are you doing writing to me? Yes. And until I got to the part where it said Summerside and Love Finds You books, and I thought, okay, well, a scam person probably wouldn't know about that. She said, "I read your book, Love Finds You, in Sundance, Wyoming, and I absolutely fell in love with that book. And I tried to find a home for it on a channel. We wanted to produce that, and that was actually going to be our very first one that we did, because it was one of my favorites."
And I should say, too, these are all contemporary, right?
Yes, they are. The movies are all contemporary, but not the books. The books are not all contemporary. All 4 of mine were historical.
As
were many others, yes. And she said, but I couldn't find a home for it because it's a historical, and nobody is making Westerns anymore. It's just very few and far between, and they're not doing well at the box office or on TV. So we want to know, I would like to discuss something with you about the possibility of you doing some writing for us. And I'm like, what? So she said, you could email me or call me. Well, I wasn't about to call. I wasn't about to email. I was going to call. So I picked up the phone. We had a long conversation, and we have since met 2 or 3 times in person. And she said that what she was wanting to do was come up with a story idea that we could pitch instead of, since we couldn't do Love Finds You because that was trademarked by Summerside and they held the rights to it. Yeah, and I said, well, you might want to know, I have a publishing company that I had started, and I had started it just the year before, and I've contracted a couple of books, and I've already republished all 4 of my books, and because I could not use the Love Finds You, I changed it to Finding Love In. And I said, so I have several books that are Finding Love In, and then a town, a city, and a state. So I ended up, we went back and forth on ideas, and she pitched me literally a one-line, what if a young woman who's a reality star in Hollywood basically gets burned out and wants to leave that life. She gets disillusioned, and she takes off on a cross-country drive, and she wrecks her car in Amish country. Could you write a whole book about that for us, please? I said, sure.
Sure, I'll do what you want, yeah.
Yes. And so she and I would brainstorm back and forth on the phone about different things as I was going along writing the book, and they were writing the script. And so the script, I waited. I had the book about a third written, and then I thought, I need to stop because I need to check and make sure I'm lining up with some of the things they're doing. And so I got the script, and I changed a few little things, but I also wove an entire storyline in besides that. But the thing that's so miraculous about this is the book that caused her to want to contact me was Love Finds You in Sundance, Wyoming, which is now retitled Outlaw Angel.
I saw that on your website, yeah.
Yes, and that book almost never came to be. That was a last minute, another author had the contract for that book, and I had pitched an idea through my agent to them for that city and that state, and they chose somebody else's. Well, that author could not fulfill her contract. They contacted me and said, we remember you mentioning this. Did you ever write that book? And I said, yes, I did. Would you be interested in letting us have that book? And we need it. And I said, well, when would you need it? 3 weeks from now.
Oh,
and I'm
my
like,
goodness.
Yeah. So we did a super fast contract, and the contract almost didn't happen because there were some glitches with the contract process and with some of the things that they said they would do and then kind of backpedaled on. And so I almost didn't. I almost withdrew. And then I thought, I don't have it sold to anybody else. I might as well. And that's the one that my producer read, loved, and it was because of that book that she contacted me. So
Isn't
the Lord knew way back. So that has now grown into Runaway Romance, From the Heart. There will be a third one, and that one we're brainstorming right now, and I actually did a 4.5-page screen treatment. Then the script writers will take that 4.5 pages and develop it into a full script.
Okay.
And then we also did Finding Love in Bridal Veil, Oregon, and that was turned into a contemporary because that was set in 1900.
Okay.
And it was, it was turned into a contemporary with just kind of the bare bones kept, the character names, and a lot changed, but they had to dump the mystery that was in it. There's a very strong mystery thread in that one. But they kept the romance intact, the kind of a, two-way, is she going to choose this guy or is she going to choose this what guy?
Sure.
And that was filmed last fall, and that will probably release in October or November, again, we believe, with Hallmark. It's not firm yet, but they are seriously interested in it. We
that
just can't say
so
it's going to be a Hallmark movie.
And
it'll be Love Finds You or Finding... Thank you. Thank you. It'll be Finding Love in Mountain View instead of Finding Love in Bridal Veil because it was filmed in Mountain View and Bridal Veil doesn't exist.
Ah, okay.
Anymore. It's a ghost town, so yeah.
Well, that would have been a good historical, which is what you had it at first, right?
Yes, right.
I had my book with Summerside Press was Love Finds You in Miracle, Kentucky.
Yes.
And it was one of the first out of the gate. I think it was Sandy Bricker had one in Snowball, Arkansas, and mine came out right after hers.
Right.
And it was, I guess, through this whole Summerside guidepost thing, it was picked up by Harlequin. So they've got like this page of me as being like one of their authors, but I'm not. And it's Miracle, Kentucky. And they said it was optioned, but I've never heard from anyone. And
right.
So
all of them were optioned. Every single one was optioned. But then when the whole thing fell apart, the options all got dropped.
Okay. Well, somehow I've got to do some research and get my rights back for that book. So,
you can. Talk to me later. I'll tell you how to do it.
I will. Thank you so much. And I just want to tell my listeners out there that, see, things can come true when we've always on this podcast, we talk about how sometimes difficult it is to get a book published and what authors have had to do in trying to meet editors or self-publishing, whatever they choose, whichever option. But it's so inspiring to hear how God really took control of that, of your work, and just you kind of walked through the doors that the Lord opened for you.
Yes. Yes, and honestly, I have done that with every single thing throughout my entire career. With Kriegel, it was at a conference, and I wasn't even pitching the book, and I was sitting across the table from a man and his wife, and I didn't even know who they were, and the lady just kind of casually asked what I was working on, and I just spouted off a little bit about the book, and she goes, "Oh, that sounds really good," and so she asked me more questions, and then she says, "I'm going to call our lead editor at Kriegel. I think he'd be interested in this." And then I find out that she's one of the acquisition editors. and so then I see her the next day, and I said, "I was so tickled you were interested. Thank you. And did you actually you're really thinking you might call your editor?" And she said, "Oh, I already have. He's very interested. He wants you to send it to him. Here's his contact information."
Oh my goodness.
And then with the Summerside books, the Love Science U books, I had nothing to do with that. They contacted Kim Vogel-Sawyer, who is now a close friend of mine, but I had only met her briefly at a conference. We had talked and kind of hit it off. She had read The Other Daughter, my first book with Kriegel, and loved it. And so they asked her, they said, "Would you write for us?" And she said, "I can't. I'm under contract with Bethany with an exclusive, can't do it." And, well, they said, "Would you give us like 3 names of people you would recommend?" Had no idea she did this. She recommended me as one of those 3 names. And so here, Summerside, out of the blue, sends me an email. She gave him my email, contacts me. "We're starting a new line. Would you be interested in writing for us?" And I didn't seek that out. That was just the Lord. And the movie thing, strictly the Lord. The whole me becoming a publisher, I had no plans to do that. That was absolutely the Lord. So there's just been everything all along the way. Every single step of my career has been orchestrated, and it's just been amazing. But it was also prophetic and kind of happened, without me planning to ever write either. So,
exactly. And I think that is just such an inspiring story. I had a similar thing happen with the Summerside thing. My agent called, and the people who were putting Summerside together remembered me from a different publisher and said, "Hey, let's see if she'll write for us." And that's, I kind of just walked right into that opportunity. And so I guess I just want my listeners to know that when the Lord's in control, you will get, your book will be published in due time. He put that on your heart. You just trust and walk the journey, and he opens the doors.
Right. Do what you need to be doing. Do your job. Do your part. Trust him. Pray over it. Give it to him daily. And then trust him to put you in the right place at the right time, or to have someone remember you who might then contact somebody who knows somebody, and it just dominoes, and it falls into place. So, don't strive, just rest. I think that's what I would say.
Yes, definitely. Well, we're going to stop just real quick so we can get a word from our sponsor in, and then we'll be right back with Miralee.
Jenny Craig is here to support your health and to help you lose weight, all from the comfort of home. Get a personalized plan made just for you, plus eat all the foods you love 6 times a day with a menu plan that tells you what to eat and when. Along with this, Jenny Craig's dedicated coaches will support and motivate you to success. Call 360-630-8791 for a free consultation and learn about our free shipping option today.
Well, thanks, listeners, for coming back. And we are talking with Miralee Ferrell, and she is a published author, award-winning. And we were talking about how one of her books, well, actually three, are going to be movies. One is already a movie that you can get, whether it's on YouTube or you can get the DVD. It's called Runaway Romance. And the next couple of movies may be optioned with Hallmark, but they're definitely going to be up TV movies. And so we can look
No, they
forward.
won't be up TV movies.
Oh, they won't at all?
No, they will not be up TV movies. They will probably be Hallmark, but not up. Yeah, Up did not option them. Mm-hmm.
Okay, forgive me for that. I got a little confused there. But I am just really excited to hear about your career and everything the Lord has been doing. Why don't we talk a little bit now about how you made the transition between being a published author and opening your own publishing company? Right.
Yeah, that's been quite the journey. It started in 2013 when I had been writing for David C. Cook, and I had four historical romances with them, and I had a contract for 4 of the kids' middle grade books that I was currently working on, and I had actually pitched them a brand new series of historical romances, and the publisher was just sure they were going to take them. It went to committee, and everybody loved them, and they wanted to even renew and continue with the kids' books. And right at that time, when all of this was happening, the company made a huge transition shift and decided that they were going to completely drop publishing fiction and go to strictly nonfiction. They've always done Sunday school curriculum, church curriculum, missions things, and a lot of very heavily in the nonfiction biographies, how-to books, that type of thing. And they just made the decision to shift away from fiction. And so my contract was not renewed with more of the kids' books, nor was the new historical romance series picked up. And I wasn't devastated because that's not my personality, but I was very disappointed.
Sure,
and I told my agent I wanted to take a few months and pray and think. She started shopping it around, and it actually went to Barber, and they were very close to contracting the new series in a historical line they were going to be doing. And we were even talking about promotion and contracts, and I just pulled back, and I said, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I just can't do it. I have no enthusiasm. I have no joy. I don't want to do this. I wanted to write for Cook, and nothing against Barber at all. This is not where my head is at right now. And so I completely pulled back and told her I needed 6 months. During that 6-month period, Cook gave me permission to write any sequels that I wanted to with the Love Blossoms in Oregon historical romance series or the kids series, that I could write sequels. I could do what I wanted. I could add to it, which bless them. It was just so wonderful. And so I published a novella that went with the Love Blossoms in Oregon series. And my brother emailed me one day, and he said, how did you get your book listed with CBD, Christian Book Distributors? And I said, it's not. I'm self-published, and it's not. And he said, well, yes, it is. And I said, what? And so I went and looked, and sure enough, there it was. I picked up the phone and called them. And they said, well, let me put you through to our sales department. I said, yeah, I see that it's listed as a print book, but not Kindle. So I'm curious how you happen to be carrying it. And he said, well, and I had come up with a business name, Mountain Brook Inc., because I didn't want that one book or any other sequels that I wrote for that series to say Amazon Services.
Right.
And so we used to live on a road that was called Mountain Brook, and I thought, Mountain Brook, I-N-K, not I-N-C, I-N-K. So a flowing river of, or a stream, a brook of ink. And he said, well, we saw that this book came out, and you already had 3 books in that same series with David C. Cook, and so we decided to pick it up. And then he said, and we haven't worked with your publisher, Mountain Brook Inc., before, but we would be interested in seeing their catalog. You know, if they have 10 books or more, we'd be interested in seeing their catalog. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll have to be sure and let my publisher know. Thank you.
That's great.
So I got off the phone and I thought, 10 books. Wonder how I can do that. And the Lord just started sending me. I thought, can I write 10 books really fast? No, probably not. And I had a author friend whose Heart Song had just closed. And that's who she had written for exclusively. And she came, said, well, would you want to publish my books? I said, I'd love to publish your books. And one thing led to another with more and more people suggesting that I might do a good job. And I think because I have a lot of contacts in the publishing world, and we had all of our books until Romantic Times closed. Because they were familiar with me as an author and they trusted my work, they were willing to end up reviewing every single one of our authors' books. We now have, I think, 75, or getting close to 80, maybe, books in print. And we just
right now I'm on the Mountain Brook Inc. books. Yep, the website. And I have to say, your covers are beautiful. I love them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Really do a great job with your.
We have a wonderful designer that we are very blessed that the Lord sent our way. Yes. Yes, we hire a lot of outside work.
That's one of the things that readers complain about, and other, I guess it would be our peers, will disrespect the book if it does not look professional. So if you put a cheesy cover on your book, meaning you in general, it's generally not going to be taken seriously. So that's what I just, I looked at your covers and they're really, really great. So you're doing a great job that way.
Thank you. Thank you. I worked for 3 years to get, from the time that we made that first contact with Christian Book Distributors, CBD, I worked for 3 years to get our books, all of our books, on there. And now, if a person is interested in seeing outside of our website every single book that we carry, you can actually go to christianbook.com. The most recent 2 or 3 aren't on there yet. It takes them a little while to get them all caught up. And in the search engine, you can just put Mountain Brook Inc., INK, and it will literally bring up every single one of our books. So if a person is interested in what we actually have out there, and we just launched in January a brand new imprint called Mountain Brook Fire, and it is strictly speculative fiction, so fantasy, sci-fi, supernatural warfare, dystopian.
Tell me the name again. I think I had a little bit of static there. Say the name of the imprint one more time.
Yes, Mountain Brook Fire, Fire. And you can find it by typing in fire.mountainbrookinc.com. And and you'll see a whole different realm of types of covers and books there. And we just signed anybody who's familiar with speculative fiction and especially fantasy might know the name Brian Davis. We just signed Brian Davis. He has several books with traditional large companies that were in the Dragon series. Well, we're doing something a little different. He came out with and I know this is going to sound strange, but it is a clean, semi-Christian ghost story. But it's about the ghosts of Joan of Arc and another person from history coming back to try to right some wrongs. And it's fascinating, and I think it truly will become a literary type one that will last for a long time. Wow. So we're very excited about that as the kickoff book for that imprint. We already had a number of speculative fiction that we had published over the last few years, but we're starting this imprint along with a contest. The contest just closed, but we are in the judging phase now for the Fire Award that will be our first year's award this year. So lots going on, a lot going on.
Lots going on. You are a busy woman. You weren't kidding.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Very much so.
That is fabulous. Now, I see on the Mountain Brook Inc. website that you have a tab up on the toolbar that says submissions. So if listeners are saying, oh, maybe I could submit to this, this publisher, the submission guidelines are right there on the website.
They are right there.
It's so important.
And you are not required to have an agent. You may submit yourself.
That is really wonderful to to know that, because I think a lot of writers feel like, oh, I can't get a publisher's attention unless I have an agent. And so it's good to know that you don't require that. But you do require that they adhere to the submission guidelines.
Absolutely. And if you don't read them thoroughly and understand what it is that we're asking for and do it the right way, we will probably send you a very kind rejection letter.
Well, and that's understandable. I mean, busy people, they want, and that is just very standard in the publishing industry.
Yes.
So
well, and we kind of feel like if you're not to the point where you understand what some of the things are that we're asking for, if you don't know what a query letter is, if you don't know what a proposal is supposed to be, then you probably aren't to the point where you're really ready to be published, and you need to slow down, back up a couple of steps, go to some conferences, take a bunch of classes, have other people looking at your work besides your mom or your best friend, people in the industry, and be able to get to the point where you're actually ready, not just where you feel you're ready, but you truly are ready to have a acquisitions editor or an agent look at your work.
Absolutely. That is wonderful advice. Again, Miralee, thank you so much for being on Discover the Story today. And listeners, you can find pictures and links from this interview posted on my Facebook page. Simply log on to Facebook and search for Discover the Story. You can also find out more about my books and me by visiting my website at andreabeshar.com. Meanwhile, join me each week as we discover the story with a variety of special guests here on the Christian Women Affiliate Radio Network. See you next time.
You've been listening to Discover the Story with author Andrea Beshar. We hope that you've enjoyed today's program. Join us next time and discover the story.